You can feel it, can't you? That sudden shift. The messages slow down, the calls stop coming, and the man who once made you feel seen and desired now feels distant, like he's slipping through your fingers. And you're left wondering what happened. Did you say something wrong? Did he lose interest? Or is this just another painful cycle you keep finding yourself in? If that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Because today, we're diving deep into relationship advice for women, real dating tips for women that reveal why men pull away, and most importantly, how to make him miss you without losing yourself in the process. This is about female empowerment in relationships, about learning when to stop chasing men, about understanding men at a deeper level, and rebuilding your self-love and confidence even after heartbreak. This is your moment of toxic relationship recovery, and your rise into the high-value woman mindset that changes everything. When a man starts pulling away, it feels like the ground beneath you starts to shake. You sense the shift before it even becomes obvious. His tone changes, his texts are shorter, his energy feels colder, and suddenly your body goes into panic mode. You start trying to fix it, texting more, asking questions, trying to keep the connection alive. But here's what you need to hear. That panic, that urge to chase, that desperation to make things normal again, it's the very thing that pushes him further away. You think your actions are helping, but in reality they're driven by fear. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. And when fear takes over, it drowns your natural confidence, your peace, your power. You have to understand that when he pulls away, it's not a cue to lose yourself trying to hold him close. It's a moment to pause, to breathe, and to observe. Because when someone takes distance, they're communicating something, even if they're not saying it out loud. Sometimes it's confusion. Sometimes it's emotional overwhelm. Sometimes it's immaturity or a lack of readiness. But none of those reasons mean you have to collapse into panic. His distance is not an emergency. It's information. And information gives you power. When you stop reacting and start observing, you shift the dynamic entirely. You begin to see him clearly, not through the lens of your fears, but through the lens of truth. That pause, that stillness, that choice not to chase, it's magnetic. It's calm. It's strength. When you hold your center, you remind yourself that you don't earn love by fighting for it. You attract love by being grounded, by being secure, by being whole. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who's uncertain about you. The woman who can stay still when everything inside her wants to move, that's the woman who knows her value. That's the woman who stops the cycle of emotional chaos. Because she understands something most people never learn, that silence, patience, and self-control are power. When you don't chase, you create space. And that space reveals truth. If he's meant for you, he'll come back. Not because you begged, but because he chooses to. And if he doesn't, that's not rejection. That's redirection. You are not being abandoned. You are being protected. Because no woman who loves herself deeply will ever need to beg for consistency. You have to trust that holding your boundaries doesn't scare the right man away. It filters out the wrong one. Every time you resist the urge to chase, you reinforce your strength. You say to the universe, I will not betray myself just to be loved. That's what changes everything. That's when you stop being the woman who waits for someone to choose her and start being the woman who chooses herself every time. And that leads to the next truth. Emotional detachment is not indifference. It's protection. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about caring enough about yourself to stop over-investing in someone who's not matching your energy. Detachment means you stop pouring into people who give you half-empty cups. It means you stop twisting yourself into someone's idea of enough. It means you stop measuring your value by how much someone else shows up. When you detach, you shift from desperation to dignity. You pull your energy back from where it's being wasted and return it to where it belongs, inside you. And let me tell you, that's where your power is. When you stop chasing and start redirecting, your whole energy changes. You become lighter, calmer, more magnetic. People feel it. He feels it. Because suddenly you're not trying to convince anyone of your worth. You're embodying it. That kind of energy is irresistible, but detachment doesn't come easy. It takes practice. It takes catching yourself every time your mind starts spinning with what ifs. What if he's losing interest? What if he's with someone else? What if I never hear from him again? And then reminding yourself those thoughts don't serve you. They don't change the situation. They drain your peace. You have to consciously shift the focus from him to you. What can you control right now? Your reactions, your thoughts, your choices. That's it. You can't control his distance, but you can control how you respond to it. Instead of obsessing over what he's doing, start asking yourself, what am I neglecting in myself right now? Because most of the time, the energy we pour into chasing someone else is energy we've stopped giving to ourselves. We forget the things that used to make us feel alive. We abandon our routines, our joy, our growth, just to keep someone interested. But that's backwards. The more you abandon yourself, the more invisible you become. The more you return to yourself, the more magnetic you are. Pull back your focus. Reclaim your energy. Reconnect with what makes you feel alive. Go out with friends. Move your body. Work on something that fulfills you. The goal isn't to make him notice. It's to remind yourself that you were whole long before he came along. That's the shift. That's the high-value mindset that makes you stand out. Because when your happiness isn't dependent on anyone's presence or absence, you become the woman who radiates confidence. You stop clinging. You start attracting. And here's the beautiful irony. The moment you detach, not as a game, but as a genuine act of self-respect, is the moment everything changes. Because now your energy says, I'm good either way. That's when he feels your absence. That's when he wonders where you went. That's when he starts to realize that the peace you brought to his life was something rare. But here's the truth. You don't do it to make him miss you. You do it to make you find you again. Because no man's distance should ever make you lose your own direction. Detachment is the art of staying connected to yourself even when someone else disconnects from you. And when you master that, you become unstoppable. Here's the truth about when men pull away. Most of the time, it's not about you. It feels personal, it feels targeted, it feels like rejection, but deep down it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of how he processes emotion. See, men and women are wired differently when it comes to connection and emotional closeness. Women tend to lean in when they care. When something feels off, we talk about it, we try to connect, we seek reassurance. But for many men, when emotions get intense or when vulnerability creeps in, their instinct is to pull back. They retreat to regain a sense of control, to clear their head, to feel stable again. It's not because they don't feel something. It's because they do, and they don't always know what to do with it. This is where understanding psychology saves you from unnecessary pain. When a man withdraws, what he's really doing is managing pressure, internal or external. Sometimes it's the pressure of expectation. Sometimes it's fear of intimacy. Sometimes it's his old wounds resurfacing, reminding him of moments when getting close led to pain. It's not your job to fix that. It's not your job to chase, reassure, or mother him through it. When you try to fill in that gap for him, you end up taking responsibility for his emotional regulation. And that's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as care. You might be thinking, but if I don't reach out, won't he think I don't care? No, what he'll feel is your absence, and that's powerful. Because when he steps back and you stay calm, you send a very clear message. You're not going to crumble because of his silence. You're not dependent on his presence to feel okay. And that, more than any words you could say, creates respect. Men notice women who don't chase, who don't beg, who don't spiral. It tells him that you're grounded in yourself, that your emotional world doesn't depend on his consistency. The truth is, sometimes a man's distance is his process, and it has nothing to do with you. It's his way of trying to regain balance. But that doesn't mean you wait around forever. It means you understand his space without taking it as an insult. You stay in your lane. You let him figure himself out while you continue living your life. When he comes back, and often he will, he'll be returning to a woman who stayed steady in her power. And that steadiness, that's what deepens attraction. Because deep down, every man is drawn to a woman who knows who she is even when he's unsure of himself. So the next time he pulls away, resist the urge to chase clarity. You don't need to demand it. You don't need to force a conversation when the energy isn't right. Instead, give him the gift of your silence and your presence elsewhere. Let your stillness speak. Let your peace remind him that you're not afraid of distance, because that's when he learns. Your connection isn't something to be taken lightly. That's when he realizes that your energy, your stability, your calm, isn't something he can find everywhere. And that brings us to one of the most underrated forms of strength: Silence. When a man pulls away, silence becomes your superpower. It's not the cold, punishing kind of silence. It's the kind that says, I value myself enough not to chase uncertainty. It's the silence that holds space for your dignity. It's the quiet confidence that tells the world, I'm not afraid of losing what doesn't want to stay. That silence is magnetic. Because while most people scramble to fix, to plead, to over-explain, you choose peace. You choose stillness, and that's what sets you apart. Silence gives you clarity. When you stop reaching out, you start seeing clearly. You begin to notice patterns you missed when you were too busy trying to hold things together. You see how often you've been the one doing the emotional heavy lifting. You recognize how many times you've overextended yourself for love. And in that awareness, you start reclaiming pieces of yourself you gave away. Silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your moment to pause, to watch, and to decide what you're really willing to tolerate. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You rediscover you. You reconnect with your own energy, your peace, your joy. You realize that while you were waiting for him to call, life was waiting for you to show up. So you stop waiting. You go for walks. You pick up projects you've put off. You call your friends. You get back into your rhythm. Because when you do, your energy shifts, and he feels it. Men are intuitive to energy. They feel it when you stop chasing. They feel it when your world expands beyond them. Suddenly, you're not the woman sitting by the phone. You're the woman living her life. You've become the mystery again. You've become the one who's centered, vibrant, and full of life. And that's the energy that draws him in more powerfully than any words ever could. But here's the most important part. You're not doing any of this as a strategy to get him back. You're doing it because you deserve your own energy. You deserve your own love. You deserve your own attention. You're reminding yourself that even if he never comes back, you'll be okay. Because you never lost the one thing that mattered most. You. That's the power of silence and self-focus. It's not manipulation. It's transformation. You're no longer trying to fill the void he left. You're filling your life with yourself. That's when you stop operating from fear and start operating from faith. Faith in your worth. Faith in your value. Faith that what's meant for you won't require you to chase it. And that faith, that peace, that grounded energy, it's magnetic. That's what makes you unforgettable. Because the truth is, the moment you stop trying to make him see your worth is the moment he finally can. Every time you try to control how someone feels about you, you hand them your power. You start calculating your words, overanalyzing your texts, changing your tone, hoping it'll make them stay, hoping it'll make them see your worth. But here's the hard truth. When you start trying to control the outcome, you've already lost the connection to your authentic self. Love that's real doesn't need manipulation. It doesn't need convincing. You can't make someone feel something by performing your way into their approval. Control is the illusion your fear creates when you feel unsafe. It's the part of you that whispers, if I just do everything right, he won't leave. But love isn't earned by perfection. It's sustained by truth. Confidence, on the other hand, is peace. It's the calm knowing that you can't lose what's meant for you, and you can't hold on to what isn't. Confidence doesn't chase. Confidence doesn't try to control the narrative. Confidence simply knows, if he's pulling away, that's data. It's feedback. It's an opportunity to see what happens when you stop fighting for what's fading. Because when you stop chasing validation, you start creating gravity. The energy of control repels. The energy of confidence attracts. You want to know why? Because confidence feels safe. Confidence says, I'm okay with or without you. And that kind of emotional independence, that's magnetic. You have to train yourself to replace control with curiosity. Instead of, why is he acting like this? Ask, what's this situation showing me about me? Because control always comes from fear, and fear always comes from a lack of trust. Trust in yourself, in timing, in your worth. When you start letting go of control, you give space for truth to emerge. You let the wrong people walk away and the right people lean in. You stop trying to manipulate love and start embodying it. And when you do, you begin to understand something powerful. Your reaction sets the tone for how people treat you. Every time you stay calm when someone pulls back, you're showing the universe that your peace is not for sale. That's what it means to have a high-value mindset. You stop chasing after energy that's not choosing you. You stop explaining why you're worthy of effort. You start walking in the quiet confidence that says, If you can't see it, that's your loss. And when you truly believe that, everything changes. Because now, your energy shifts from fear to faith, from neediness to self-assurance. People can feel that shift. The right man will feel it. He'll sense that you're not clinging, that you're not trying to pull him closer. And ironically, that's exactly what makes him lean in. Because men are not drawn to perfection. They're drawn to peace. But here's the thing. This isn't just about him. It's about you. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself that you lost when you started measuring your worth by someone else's attention. You have to come home to yourself, to the part of you that existed long before this relationship, long before the anxiety, long before the patterns that made you believe love had to be earned. You were whole before and you still are now. When you choose confidence over control, you're choosing yourself, and that's the beginning of your transformation. So when he pulls away, don't try to grab tighter. Don't try to fix it. Let him go, and instead, use that silence as your mirror. Ask yourself, what have I been neglecting in me? Because often his distance gives you exactly what you've been avoiding: space. Space to grow, to reflect, to realign. The period when he pulls away is not punishment. It's your transformation phase. It's the moment life gives you back to yourself. This is the time to do the work you've been avoiding. Heal the wounds that make you afraid of being alone. Break the habits that make you overfunction in relationships. Learn how to sit in stillness without spiraling. That's where your power grows, in the moments you think you've been abandoned. Because that's when you realize you were never abandoned. You were just redirected inward. You don't need his validation to evolve. You don't need his text to feel desired. You need your own attention. Pour into yourself the way you poured into him. Get curious about your triggers. Ask yourself why silence feels like rejection instead of protection. Because when you start doing that work, when you start healing instead of hustling for love, you rise. You stop being the woman who waits for a call, and you become the woman who answers her own. You start glowing differently. You start showing up differently. The world feels that. He feels that. But again, it's not about getting him back. It's about getting you back. This transformation period is sacred. It's the season where you learn to trust yourself again. You learn to love your solitude instead of fearing it. You discover that peace is not something a man gives you. It's something you build. When you stop obsessing over whether he'll return, your energy shifts toward abundance instead of lack. You stop clinging to what's uncertain and start creating what's meant for you. You realize that your story doesn't end because someone walked away. It begins when you decide to stop abandoning yourself. Let his silence motivate you, not break you. Let his distance become the reason you finally evolve. Because when you use that space to become the most grounded, self-assured, high-value version of yourself, you stop being affected by inconsistency. You become your own source of security. And here's the wild part. Once you find that kind of inner peace, you'll look back and realize you're not even waiting for him anymore. You're too busy becoming the woman you were meant to be. That's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, you start attracting. The moment you stop controlling, you start aligning. And the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you love, you become it. You become the woman who knows her value so deeply that no one's distance, no one's silence, no one's uncertainty can shake it. That's power. That's freedom. That's what happens when you stop trying to control love and start letting love transform you. There comes a moment when you have to stop begging for potential and start honoring reality. You know that moment. The one where you've replayed the same story in your head 100 times, convincing yourself that if you just say the right thing, or wait a little longer, or show him how much you care, he'll finally see your worth. But deep down, you already know the truth. He's showing you who he is right now. And the version of him you keep holding on to, that's not the man standing in front of you. That's the fantasy you built to make the pain easier to bear. It's hard to admit it. It's hard to face that you've been trying to turn almost love into something real. But there's nothing empowering about staying where love keeps shrinking you. Walking away doesn't mean you stopped loving him. It means you started loving yourself more. Grace is not weakness. Grace is power wrapped in peace. When you walk away with grace, you're not slamming doors. You're not proving a point. You're reclaiming your dignity. You're saying, I will not lose myself trying to convince someone else of my value. You're choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, truth over fantasy. And that kind of choice takes strength most people will never understand. Because walking away isn't about giving up. It's about knowing when enough is enough. It's about realizing that staying in a situation that keeps breaking your spirit isn't loyalty. It's self-abandonment. When you finally decide to walk away, everything inside you will want to turn back. Your mind will play tricks on you. You'll miss the good moments, the little things, the potential that never fully bloomed. You'll start romanticizing the bare minimum, convincing yourself it wasn't that bad. But that's not love talking, that's fear. That's the part of you that's addicted to hope, that believes if you just try harder, maybe it'll change. But the truth is, real love doesn't make you feel small. It doesn't make you doubt your worth. It doesn't make you beg for effort. When you walk away with grace, you're not walking away from love. You're walking toward truth. You're walking toward the version of yourself that refuses to settle for inconsistency disguised as passion. There's a quiet moment after the chaos where you start to feel something unfamiliar. Peace. It's uncomfortable at first. You're so used to the highs and lows that calm feels like emptiness. But that stillness you feel after letting go, that's healing. That's your nervous system finally relaxing after being in fight or flight mode for too long. It's your body remembering what safety feels like. You start to realize that peace doesn't come from being chosen. It comes from choosing yourself over and over again. And when you do, you start to rebuild your self-trust. You begin to feel proud of yourself for walking away instead of angry that you had to. That pride? That's your foundation. That's where your strength grows from. When you walk away with grace, you open the door for your next level of life. Because the woman who leaves with peace is not the same woman who begged to stay. She's wiser now, softer in her heart, but stronger in her boundaries. She knows that her energy is sacred and her love is valuable. And that leads to something even deeper. The moment you stop chasing, you start reclaiming your feminine power. Your feminine power isn't about control or dominance. It's about presence. It's about being rooted in who you are. It's about knowing that your softness, your empathy, your intuition are not weaknesses. They are your superpowers. Somewhere along the way, life taught you that being strong meant being hard, that in order to protect yourself, you had to build walls. But true feminine strength is not about walls. It's about flow. It's about knowing when to stay and when to go, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to nurture and when to protect your energy. It's the quiet confidence that says, I don't need to prove my worth. I embody it. When you step into that energy, everything changes. You stop fighting for attention because you no longer need it to validate you. You stop over-explaining yourself because you know your energy speaks louder than your words. You stop chasing love because you've learned how to create it within yourself. That's when you become magnetic. Because real feminine power doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't demand, it inspires. It doesn't compete. It simply exists, radiant and unshakable. Reclaiming your feminine power also means allowing yourself to feel again, without shame. It's giving yourself permission to cry, to grieve, to release. It's not pretending you're fine when you're breaking inside. It's sitting with the pain, acknowledging it, and then choosing to rise anyway. You don't become powerful by avoiding the hard emotions. You become powerful by walking through them and realizing they don't define you. You start to see that every heartbreak was just a mirror, showing you where you still needed to love yourself deeper. Every person who pulled away was teaching you something about boundaries, about value, about the strength you didn't even know you had. And when you finally embody that energy, when you rise from the ashes of everything that tried to break you, you don't need validation anymore. You become the kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone feels it. You don't need to speak loudly. Your presence does it for you. You don't need to chase attention. Your energy commands it. You don't need to question your worth. You live it. That's feminine power. It's not loud. It's not desperate. It's not forced. It's soft. It's steady. It's undeniable. So when a man pulls away, when someone leaves, when life tests your strength, remember this. You were never meant to shrink to be loved. You were meant to expand, to rise, to evolve. Every time you choose peace over drama, every time you walk away from what no longer serves you, every time you return to yourself instead of chasing validation, you step deeper into your power. You become the woman who no longer waits to be chosen because she finally understands. She was the prize all along. So the next time he pulls away, don't crumble. Rise. Don't chase. Choose yourself. Because the right man won't run from your strength. He'll be drawn to it. You are not too much, too emotional, or too hard to love. You are simply meant to be loved by someone who doesn't need distance to see your value. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments. How did you handle it when someone pulled away? What did it teach you about your own worth? I want to hear your stories. Don't forget to like this video, share it with another woman who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more real, raw conversations about love, healing, and empowerment. And tell me, what topic do you want me to dive into next? Let's grow together, because this isn't just a channel. It's a movement of women who are done chasing love and ready to become it.